I've been talking the last couple of weeks about just the reality of what does it mean to live in a culture that's changing, that's perhaps becoming post-secular, where people are more open to spiritual things or the gospel. And as a result of that, there's a sense in which how we need to think about how we are prepared for people who just show up in our world and at our churches, perhaps, as that may happen. And again, the reality of this is what Jesus has commanded us to do, is to go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I commanded. And that is ultimately the mission of the church, is what's there. And there's so much to unpack there, beginning with go, which is a sense that we're not sitting here. There's an outward movement, and it's all nations. It's not just our people. There's all sorts of things going on there. But there are two things about making disciples that I think are really important that we see in this short little text from Matthew's Gospel in Matthew chapter 28. First, that we baptize people in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, and we teach them to obey. So those are two sorts of things: initiation and ongoing discipleship. I want to talk about initiation today, which is basically how is it that people come to faith and are therefore baptized. And it strikes me, I'm going to tell three stories about three people. My wife Tamara is a cradle Anglican. She grew up, she was baptized in the Anglican Church. She's been an Anglican her entire life. And so she came to faith literally as she was discipled, and she came to faith through Sunday school, through what was happening in her church. That's how she came to faith. She was initiated into the faith in that sort of way. That's example number one. Example number two is there was a young man, when I was a young curate, who was in my confirmation class, who had a conversion experience in my confirmation class. He came to realize, oh, this is what this actually means, and he came to faith. I myself came to faith because I met somebody who was a Christian who witnessed to me and became a friend and told me about the gospel. That's another way. Another thing that happened that I've noticed is a guy I knew in our church in Vermont who I just assumed had always been a believer because he'd gone to church his entire life. But when I had this conversation with him one day, he said, oh no, this is new to me. This kind of faith is new to me. So it strikes me there's a lot of different ways in which people are initiated into the faith. And what that means for us is there's some things that we need to think about doing. Number one, as I think about that confirmation class and Tamara growing up in the faith, is we need to be doing good catechesis in our churches. We need to be teaching what it means to believe the gospel, to believe in Jesus. And not just information teaching, but life example teaching and all of those sorts of things that are part of catechesis. Good catechesis matters because people are initiated into the faith sometimes simply by good catechesis. So that's something that we should be doing and paying a careful attention to. Secondly, I think about my own experience of kind of coming to faith because I met a Christian who witnessed to me. The second thing we need to be doing is being out there involved in places other than just our church. We need to have kind of connections and relationships that are not just our church friends. We need to have other friends that might not know Jesus and might at some point become interested in Jesus. So good catechesis matters. Being engaged beyond the church matters. And I think thirdly, as I think about this gentleman that had a revival of faith, or actually really understanding of faith later in life, is we need to be consistently, clearly proclaiming Jesus in our churches, in how we behave certainly in our churches, but certainly in terms of what we're teaching in the pulpit and things like that. Because sometimes people have been sitting there in their entire lives and they realize, just a second, I just got this. I just understood this for the first time. So as we think about initiation, what it means to make disciples in terms of initiation, it does involve regular good catechesis. It does involve being out there and not just in our church, and it does involve being consistent about proclaiming the gospel week in and week out in our pulpits. I think this is really at the heart of what we need to be doing as we continue to look to Jesus to bring new life to us and to people who do not yet know Him.